little transmitting to Australia. I'm going to just share it quickly. Ben is with us, and the legend George Tonna. Welcome to the show. How many beers have you had so far today, George?
0. I don't drink.
The 0 beers. Well done.
I've been celebrating my own way. Anzac Day today in Australia. Very special day in New Zealand, and quite honoured of what past people have done for this country. Made the country what it is today. It's a very special day. We're in lockdown, of course, so it was the first time that everyone had to gather around their front gardens or their post boxes, and then remember people in their own special way. But it was still a very humbling day today.
So how are you managing to keep yourself entertained during the lockdown?
I'm going insane. I've got 3 kids at home, under 15, who are homeschooling at the moment. I'm working from home, which is good. So I'm doing work from home. Not really keeping physically fit, mentally fit, yes. I'm going for walks with the family. Just trying to keep myself active, trying to clean up the place, having a spring clean or a winter clean. It's coming in our winter now. So I'm having a winter clean and just decluttering the place. But overall, things in Australia are getting better. 12 confirmed cases today in terms of the coronavirus. But they open the beaches, and of course people are not taking it serious enough. And then now we're going back to the beaches, and now they have to close the beaches and maybe put us in more lockdown. I feel for the likes of Italy and America and England, UK. They've got some great numbers in people who passed on. I think we're up to 70 deaths at the moment, which is quite unheard of. It's sad. It is sad, but I think we're lucky enough to hopefully beat the virus.
Wow. Okay. So plenty of walks, not too bad. You haven't been swimming, running, anything like that?
Oh, you won't ask the kids at home. But just I've got my toe, my bad, my cerebral palsy leg's playing a bit, so I don't want to push it too much. I heard we start training for our new season, I think 1st of July. So I've been keeping in touch with the boys via a Facebook which I created called Past and Present Players, and I think Emma, you're one, and a couple of New Zealand people on it. So just to get it together, we share videos, jokes, live feeds, type of thing, to keep everyone active, to keep everyone involved or connected that way. So it's been good so far. We actually found out today we had our first Defence Force person who played for us a couple of years ago. So the association and the past players, Facebook, and acknowledged his service to Australia.
Yeah, I think I saw you put that on actually. That's it must be very difficult to celebrate in distance. I mean, obviously we had St. George's Day, but we don't particularly seem to celebrate that really.
I mean, it's a full-on day. It starts at 4 in the morning. My son is, I'll show you a picture. My son's actually in the cadets. This is my granddad, that fought in the war in 1939 in Malta. He was a naval person in Malta. And then, of course, that's my son who goes to cadets. So it's a very proud day. It's a very long day, so people get up usually at 4 o'clock. They have the marches around their local areas, the suburbs, and then the big marches in the city. But unfortunately, because we couldn't, everything's closed, the lockdown, we couldn't do that. And then, of course, in yesteryear, after the march, people go to pubs and have a game of two-up, which is I think is an Anzac tradition. When they fought in Gallipoli, they had a game of two-up. So it's a big celebration, big gathering, and it was quite weird. I went to shopping. That was pretty busy because people are still shopping, of course. But very weird day. But it was very emotion seeing on the news how people celebrated.
Okay.
Yeah, Tony Dawn's online. How are you, mate? Tony Dawn.
So I can put those. Obviously, got some comments coming through now, so we can say hello to various different people. But how do you see the season for you guys panning out? Because I mean, obviously, everything's been disrupted. There's been chat about the NRL starting up again soon behind closed doors. But for yourselves, PDRL, how do you see the season panning?
Well, like I said, the board of Neil Williamson and Josh Maxwell and the rest of the crew on the board are waiting for advice from the National Rugby League, for the New South Wales Rugby League, I should say. And last I heard, I think we're going to start training maybe 1st of August. And then hopefully, whatever they decide, we've got a new team in the competition, the Palmer Eels. So they're joining a competition. So it's 6 teams now. It should have been 6 rounds, like one team each, and then the finals and the grand final. We also had the City Country and the All-Star game, which is in July. But unfortunately, I think they got cut due to the time factor. So I suggested to some of the board members that we might be able to look at doing a nines tournament, just a one-off nines tournament, and that will be deemed the winner. But we still got a bit of time left up our sleeve. We average a game every 3 weeks, so they could reduce it to 2 weeks, and then hopefully we can fit in more games. But yeah, the boys are looking forward to it. New team, and Toddy Dord, who was on the line before, he's playing for his beloved Eels. But yeah, just waiting for the season to get going again.
Is he hoping he doesn't get a wooden spoon again then?
Well, I think they've formed a good team. All the teams will be competitive as they always are. So yeah, we're just looking forward to the start of the season. I think what the plan is going to be 2 training sessions before the season starts. We did have an exhibition game before this coronavirus hit. We played in front of South Sydney and the Cronulla Sharks. Round 2, we played an exhibition game there, and that was pretty good. And Adam Hills has joined the South Sydney Rabbitohs. He's in Melbourne currently. But he's going to be joining the South Sydney Rabbits. So I look forward to playing with him this year.
Do you have any questions, Ben?
No, it's interesting. I think we're kind of both in the same boat now, aren't we? I think everyone's just waiting for everything to get kicked off again. I know, speaking from us personally, we were halfway through a pre-season when we, when all this kicked off. So it's kind of one of those things where, I'm in agreement with a lot of the things that George is saying about the main thing is that we end up playing, whether that's in a shortened form or a slightly different format. I think the important thing for everyone on both sides of the world is to make sure that something happens when this all is said and done. And I've got to say that I can't sort of credit you guys enough. Like you say, the group you've got going on Facebook, George, and just that social element for some of the lads. I know we talk about that a lot. That's just as important as playing, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, I'm not sure it's like in England in terms of how you guys see each other in terms of teams, like team versus team. But here it's like a family, big family. On the field, we are competitive. You want to win at all costs. That's just part of being an athlete. But we always keep in touch. Like I'll invite the boys to Barbie, go have a dance somewhere, and these are guys that I respect. Not as opposition, but as people. Toy Dord, one of the guys who's been online, he's visually impaired, but the drawings he draws, his Indigenous background, and amazing. He's drawn a couple of pieces for the association, and when he went to the New Zealand tour in 2017, he's just amazing. Like I'm drawing stick figures, he's dot painting. It's just brilliant. He's just I look up to Toddy, and we are competitive, but I value their friendship more. The game to me is a bonus. I've always said it when I fought 10 years ago. It's not the fact that we're playing rugby league. It's the fact that you're interacting with people that you would have interacted before in your life. Because I grew up normally. I went to a normal school. my family, my kids are able-bodied in terms of non-disabilities. So I've always grown up around able-bodied people, and to see these people on a regular basis, just it's very it's very encouraging. They're a credit to themselves and what they've achieved.
It's one of those things, isn't it? That similar to you. I've grown up through the normal route of things, and it's just sometimes I feel just as privileged for taking the field with some of these guys that maybe haven't had that route and have had to, fight and scrap a little bit harder. And I think sometimes it's easy to forget that, because once you get on the rugby field, like you say, it is very much about rugby. But I think it's important to remember that not everyone's took the same steps as you have to get there.
I mean, as you know, Ben, everyone in the PDRL League, if it's New Zealand, Australia, or UK, we've all got a story to tell. We've come from somewhere. People who were born disabled don't know what it feels like to be able-bodied, or those able-bodied players who through a stroke or through a car accident or whatever lost a limb or become ABI. I think it's harder for them. I'm lucky to be disabled because it's made me the person I am today. I've formed 3 associations in Australia, being the Cerebral Palsy Soccer, which is now gone national, and there's teams all over Australia, and they play for the George Tonna medal, and I'm honoured to the fact that I'm still alive, and they're giving an award for the best player of the finals. Then I established the Malta Knights. I'm Maltese by heritage, so they now play rugby league in Malta, and of course, Physical Disability Rugby League, which I'm proud about because it brings people together in a sporting context, but also socially and mentally. That's what I'm most proud about. The fact that now they've got a resource to speak to people of their own kind, of their own disability, where they couldn't reach out to a normal person per se.
Yeah, having someone to relate to, because quite often, speaking to some of the guys, you can grow up and very much, I suppose, and especially if like you say, you're one of the guys who maybe hasn't grown up disabled, you could very much fall into that trap of, it's just me that's having to deal with this. It's my issue, and I think what we've created and what you've created is an opportunity for people to see and talk to people like themselves.
You're also creating role models as well that perhaps weren't there before. I mean, it's very difficult, isn't it? If you are growing up with, if I think of like Keenan at Castleford, he's grown up with cerebral palsy. Who has his role model been up until this point? Now he has people to look up to, and he's being given an opportunity to play the sport that he absolutely loves in a format that he can cope with.
Yeah,
I think friendship is really important. It's given me an opportunity to meet people that I wouldn't have met otherwise, but also it's for future generations as well. The people who are looking up to people like George and yourself, and it's quite a phenomenal position to be in, because you are now taking a different role for other people.
Sure. I mean, this is my season playing PD Rugby League in terms of a player. Just on my version of my 100th game, I'll be the second or third person to do it in the world of PD Rugby League. So I'm on my last legs in terms of a player. So I'm looking at my next step. I'm a life member, so I'll be there till I die in some capacity. So my next role is the mentoring. I mentor now the players who are against me, other teams. I like to get in the ear and say, listen, do this. Make that run. Every time I make a run, make 10 metres and keep pushing yourself. When I was younger, sport for me was a mismatch. I hated sport because of my disability. But when I turned 21, I pushed myself. What's the word? I tested myself. of playing sport. If it worked, great. If it never, then at least I tried. Fortunately for me, I made the futsal into soccer. I'm not sure if you would have it there, but I was fortunate enough to play futsal soccer for New South Wales. I captained the state team. Then I've done athletics, but I always loved the team sport. Long story short, I signed up to do athletics in Nottingham. And one of the guys said, "Oh, are you coming to Nottingham?" I said, "Oh, to do athletics." I said, "Oh, my really passion is football, soccer, a team sport." And they said, "Oh, is that the case?" He said, "Well, if you can get a team organised with players and coach, because Australia had the right to host the Paralympic Games and Olympic Games, we qualify automatically." So I looked and I done an article in Daily Telegraph and different various magazines and went to the APC, and from there it happened. So if I see a vision, I go for it. I think it's very important. Sports is a very important part of not only disabled people but Indigenous people. Toddy Dawn would have never got a chance to play for Indigenous background if it wasn't for PD Rugby League. So it gives the players I suppose something to strive for. We're not gonna be professional. We're never gonna get paid to play, but just to wear your colours with dignity and to be part of a team that's what I'm most satisfied about.
Yeah.
It's so important, isn't it? Pride and passion. Doesn't matter who you are, what you're doing. That gives you something, doesn't it? I mean, being part of a team and having comrades, the banter, the friendship, the support network, and in times like this, that's really important to be able to fall back on people who get you, can completely understand your situation and what you're going through on a mental, physical basis every single day. That's really, really important. But you've taken that a step further, haven't you, George? Because you've now started. I mean, we've heard about your sports team that you've done, but heroes with ability. I think tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. Well, I tell you, it started when I was recruiting for PD Rugby League many years ago. I was recruiting at a spoken centre, or CP Alliance as it's called now, and I met a young family, husband, wife, and two children, one being a boy and one being a girl. And the mother came up to me and said, "Oh, you're George Tonna, aren't you?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "Who are you?" And she my school. And I was in year 12 and she was in year 7 or year 11 I was. And I said, "Who are you?" And she goes, "Oh, you're George Tonna. I used to look up to you." Long story short, the husband had gone away, Marco Senior, and I said, "Oh, listen, Celine, Marco Junior can play rugby league." And she goes, "Listen, no offence, but my son is being killed on a rugby league field." I said, "No, it's different. It's red shorts, which is non-contact, tackle, tag, or whatever you want to call it, and black shorts or white shorts, which is fair game." And she goes, "Wow." I said, "My son is a passionate West Tigers supporter." Long story short, Marco's been a teammate of mine. We won the 2016 grand final together. We lost the grand final in 2018 against the West Tigers. Against the Sydney Rabbits. But he was also a teammate. And then Marco said, "Oh, listen, we should go beyond that and maybe do something for other disabilities." Because I've always been around physical disability, intellectual or Down syndrome or autism. And I've never really gone that way because I don't really understand the disability. Anyway, so long story short, with the name, we're at a awards night, and Marco Junior wanted to get me a trophy. He got me a trophy and said, "You're a hero with ability." Come to the present day, or we established this last December. Marco said, "Oh, Marco Senior, who's my business partner." I said, "Oh, what do we call ourselves?" I said, "We'll call it Hero Visibility, because we're dealing with people that never had a chance before, and if you give them an opportunity, they will shine. Anyway, so we were fortunate enough to get a forward on board. A forward is like a daycare program. So they came aboard. They saw the vision that we saw, and they came aboard as they gave us some money to start their program. So we're now we done rugby league the first year. We go into we modify sport for the needs.
Mm-hmm.
So intellectual, syndrome, sensory, all that type of stuff, and of course physical. So we modify sport. We put them in a 10-week training program, based on training that they can handle, and then we have a gala day where they can represent their colours or their particular team. So we had 4 teams last year in the rugby league competition. We had West Tigers, Bulldogs, Seagulls, and the Rabbits. Currently, before the coronavirus hit, we were doing Olympic Games, mini Olympics.
Mm-hmm.
So we were very simple, like shot put, but it's all indoors. Like they throw like bean bags, and they get points for their team colour, like Olympic Games do. Then there's like a high jump, like a running one, and soccer and basketball. So we modify these sports to their needs, and I get so emotional. I get so much enjoyment because I've been there, done that. I've travelled the world for my sport. I've met 3 prime ministers. I've got my own stamp. I've played for my country in both soccer and in rugby league. So I've done it all. So I know what it takes to get there. But actually to pass my knowledge or pass me and Marcus' knowledge on to these people is very satisfying. And it gives me and Marco such joy. And not the fact that the clients, we actually get to know them as people.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a laugh and look at so-and-so, look at he said. They're such beautiful people. They're competitive, but they're not competitive against themselves. So they're not competitive against they're competitive against themselves. They want to beat their own. They don't want to beat themselves. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But they're all beautiful people, and we have such a good. It's not work to me. It's like I said, I look forward to Fridays because we do it on the Friday. But it's a pleasure to go these days and to see how joyous people can be.
How will that kind of continue though this year? I mean, that presumably that's been slightly disrupted with everything that's happening pandemic wise. Are you going to be able to fit in everything that you wanted to for this year for them?
Unfortunately, we have to cut back some of the events. So we were, I think, in our 6th week with the training for the Olympic Games. So we have spoken to Cassie Bollock, which is a forward manager in New South Wales. And me and Mark will meet up with her when we get back on board again. I think the plan is to, me and Mark have spoken to, we have one more training session with the Olympics. And then we have a gala day in their team car. I think it's black, gold, green, and red. And then we start the second phase of the year, which is the football, soccer, indoor soccer. And they're going to be modified to the needs. And that will be a reduced time frame, and again a gala day, and then of course every time they ask the carers, today's Friday is rugby league day. Rugby league will come into it probably around September-ish, and they love league. Everyone's got their favourite team, and it's awesome. I mean, if you see our website Heroes of Ability, I always get these guys going in the Bulldogs, and Rabbitohs. It's such good banter, but they're such lovely people to work with, and to see someone an autism guy that has never touched the ball. I mean, never thought he can do it, and about this week the carers go, "Oh my God, I've got to start filming this. This has never happened before to this particular person," and it's just giving someone a go. They've always said you can't do it.
Yeah,
you can't do it. Disabled. No, not in my books. You can do it. Mm-hmm. You define the sport like I did with PDRL Rugby League. I can't catch 2 hands. I can run my Grease Lightning, but I adapt to that. Everyone adapts to what they can and can't do, what they can handle. And I think we were a fitter bunch, the PD boys, over years have gone on. We're much more competitive, and I think we're actually much more fitter, both mentally and physically.
Do you think we're fitter, Ben?
Not right now, no. Definitely not right now, because I've been able to eat for 5 weeks. So,
well, I'll probably gain 20 kilos. I'll be a foot forward next week.
Too much food for 5 weeks. I don't know. It's interesting, isn't it? Because the format we run, we're roughly playing the same amount of times, or with the same time frame in between, with the 3 weeks, and but sort of. I think you guys still play longer games than us, although we fit a couple in at a time. So I don't know.
I think what's different, I think, than your league and our league is you actually play in front of good crowds. We don't. So we play at a local stadium. It's probably a 2 or 3 below in our world standard. So we play. We do get our family and friends, but you guys play in front of big stadiums. You play the Wembley. Oh, mate, Wembley. Are you serious? I would love to have a chance. Our biggest crowd to date, probably about 20 to 30,000 at ANZ Stadium, but that's only an exhibition game, so you got 5 minutes each half. But playing at the fortunate enough, and some of the boys enough to play in the Commonwealth Championships up in Redcliffe and Brisbane, so that was good. So we played in a tournament that had other teams, able-bodied teams such as Australia, New Zealand, and Cook Islands. They had a female part 2, so people that came to watch them also saw us, and we also played in Immersion Nations. So we have played in front of audiences, but it's. I mean, you guys are, right, doesn't compare. You guys in North are mad about rugby league, absolutely mad. And I was fortunate enough to see a couple of games when I was over there because my wife's from Nottingham, so I spent a bit of time in Nottingham, and Blake Solly, who will probably get the NRL job coming up. Greenberg's now
step down.
Blake Solly, who now runs South Sydney, will probably get the top job. And I was fortunate enough. He met me at Huddersfield Station. He took me to the George Hotel. I saw Huddersfield Giants play. It was like, wow. I mean, just even though Huddersfield Giants at that time wasn't the best of the best, it's very passionate people, English. And, I love to see a passion, and Timmy Rags, he's on there at the moment. He loves playing for his beloved New Zealand, his West Tigers, and just seeing him to the heart in front of me, it brought tears to my eyes. Even though we were enemies on that particular day, I was so humbled and so touched by his haka towards myself and my teammates, my Australian teammates. You just got no words can describe it. It's just wow, the wow factor.
Yeah, and I think that there's a couple of moments like that. I think that we would say would equally stand out for us, isn't there? I mean, like the one from last year that I always remember is Josh Goodfellow getting over at Old Trafford. Josh never played rugby league before. Played rugby league before, and in the first season, got the opportunity to play at Old Trafford. Never played on the wing before.
Wow.
Caught a pass off of Paul Gallen and went over at Old Trafford.
So I mean, a normal person, if they jump the fence, they get $10,000 fine and sign at the stadium. We can actually go on there and we can save it.
Yeah.
So how it proves to the world that we can do it, no matter what. Like I said, who can say that they played against Andrew Johns, or I have. Jason Stevenson, who played for New South Wales and Australia. Well, I have. Yeah. I mean, it's amazing. Like normal able-bodied guys playing for conference leagues or A grade, whatever, they can't do that. Well, we can. Especially knowing the fact that you can play and have long life mates. You're playing against these legends where you've seen on television. My God, I'm playing against him, with him. It's just amazing.
Yeah, and I think sort of the big thing for me is showing that it's not a barrier. Because I know, speaking from a personal point of view, and not just mine, but some of the other guys within our team, sometimes it was a little bit like, well, if I don't play, I don't show what I can't do, so I'm all right. And I think the big thing for me personally has been showing that it shouldn't be seen as a barrier. You should show what you can do rather than what you maybe think you can't. And I know I've personally made great steps with that since this has started, and um, I know a lot of our other guys have done. I know we've had a lot of guys come recently, haven't we, Emma, with sort of no rugby league experience
Yeah.
at all, which um,
Harry springs.
Harry springs to mind, yeah. Which always shocks me a little bit because I always thought, after the first couple of games we played, Emma, where let's be fair, we got hammered, we got battered, knocked about like hell.
Mm-hmm.
I always thought, a bit like you, George, you were saying earlier about carers going, oh no, they can't do that, they can't do that. It's about proving that they can, isn't it? Because, like you said, there's nothing better. So yeah, I think for me, it's about showing that it's not a barrier, and that actually there's a lot of doors to be opened by accepting your disability, I suppose.
I'm proud that I found this 10 years ago. It's now gone global. It's gone to England, gone to UK. It's gone to New Zealand. I've been talking to a guy from America, and I've been speaking to a couple of board members here. It's actually gone to South Africa. The actual idea. So it's actually going global. I'm one of the boys. I don't consider myself a fan. I mean, I'm I'm grateful that God put me on this earth to do something special. But I consider myself one of the boys. It's just and I think I don't say, oh, wow, look, I've made Australia. I'm proud of the fact that I'm seeing my teammates. Billy Buster, for example, is a quad CP. And when I made the Australian team, I was emotional for him. I was so proud that he made it, not the fact that I made it. Again, Marco Quintano, he was my teammate for Australia. I mean, it's building memories that you can't buy. And like I said, these guys will be friends for life. Another one, Peter Mitchell, Lieutenant Peter Mitchell, and of course he thinks he's a Top Gun guy. But no, Pete's great. Pete's our captain of Souths, and when I was captain there in 2016 for the Souths, I said that he was my X factor because he brought something to the team, which I could see that we could win the grand final. And to be Manny, I said, mate, you're the X factor for us, and that's why I'm grateful that you joined us. In the meanwhile, I've gone to West Tigers to get them up and running, establish them. Now I've gone back to Souths because I'm a Sassani supporter. My parents are born and bred in the Sassani area. So I'm glad I've gone back to Souths, and I'm looking forward to playing underneath Peter. He's a great leader, and I'm looking forward to playing for the red and green again and just busting my ass for the colours.
George, do you find that when people come to play RL with you, that it affects them in other areas of their lives, giving them confidence to try other things? I think we've seen a few of the guys that, perhaps I think one of the lads from Leeds, and he went on a first date, which was just and trying to apply for a different job, and it gives them belief in the rest of their lives as well. Have you noticed that same thing?
Well, I won't tell you the player's name, but when someone told me that I had saved him for committing suicide because of the PDRL League, that's powerful. Yeah. I saved someone, and I never even knew it. He just said, "Oh, mate, thanks to you, I can now live for something." And after that, he got a job, he got a girlfriend. Another guy, Billy, is never working. Through PDRL League, through my friends who did play, he obtained a job, and he was working 4 or 5 days a week mowing lawns. Just the confidence that they get socially. I was socially awkward. I know it doesn't say that because I'm talking like I talk to the cows come home, but I was socially awkward as a kid. I hated sport. I hated anything to do with communal things, getting around, But I taught myself to, wait a minute, I can utilise sport to my advantage, to meet people and to experience life, go overseas. I've been lucky enough to work and live in places like Moscow. I lived there for 3 years of my life. I've been to, Siberia. I was fortunate enough to work in America, one of the summer camps, and I was fortunate enough to work in England, in Nottingham. So I'm lucky. I've utilised my sport to drive me in other directions too, in working and making friends all over the world. And what I see with the players based here in New Zealand and in England, it amazes me. Like it's like turning on a switch, saying, "Okay, now I can live." Yeah, try and stop me, type of thing.
Mhm.
And I've been so impressed and so honoured by people who play physical rugby league. It's not just a sport; it's the humanity coming out of them.
Mm.
Man, very emotional.
It must be difficult for you to think of like how you can move forward from this, because I mean the things that you've achieved and the effect you've had around the globe now, I mean that's a phenomenal impact, and you must be very proud of that. But I mean, how do you visualize your next step? Because like I'm kind of sat here thinking, what else could you do? You've pretty apart from collect some more toys and stuff, but
toy collection. I'm a passionate toy collector. I love. I was one of 5 boys in a family, so my parents couldn't afford toys. I was a third hand-me-down, so I used to love toys, but of course I couldn't obtain them because my parents couldn't afford them. So now I'm working. I love collecting toys. But going back in your issue, Emma, that's a good question. I've always been involved with sports from the age of 21. So Hero's Ability just came out of the blue. It just pretty much fell on my lap. And it's not now playing a sport, but it's now mentoring, not only players, but mentoring other people to do what. Listen, you can do it as much as I can. We want to build this business so much. We've got 2 ambassadors so far. Billy Walters, he's just come on board on the West Tigers roster. He's famous Walter's son. So all the Malta boys that play for Queensland, and he's just a great player. He plays hooker. And we've got Ryan Madison. Ryan Madison is now playing for the Penrith Eels.
Terry Mattison's nephew. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Terry Mattison's nephew. Yeah.
But they actually came to us. Whenever approached, they came to us, so they can see that what we're doing is inspirational. Not only because I'm disabled and Marco Jr. is disabled, but we're mentoring other people. I want to give back my knowledge and what I have achieved in my sports. And like I said, it gives me great satisfaction and pleasure in seeing these people grow stature in their physical and mental health.
I think you said something similar, haven't you, Ben? Moving forward, it's about mentoring the next generation.
I mean, yeah, I remember talking right back when we got started over here with Craig Shepherd, and I remember joking with Dino about the fact that he maybe can play for 5 years, but I'd like to play for even longer. And then it's about people being able to play once this first wave of players has aged to a point where everything hurts a little bit too much the morning after. It's about having that opportunity for the next wave of players to not only have something to step into, but have the confidence to step into and think, right, I don't mind holding my hand up and saying, yes, I've got this disability because I can do this. It's not going to stop me doing this. And I don't know if I'm a little bit biased because of my background as a teacher, but I think my opinion is that all this that we're doing, all this great work, all this showing, it needs to be pushed into schools for me, because I don't think there is enough of it there. And I know no one knows more than me how hard pressed we are for time in school. But I think there's a great opportunity there. And I don't just think that for PDRL, I think that's for rugby league in general in our country. Yeah. I know in Australia it's a bit different, but in our country we don't push ourselves enough there. And I think that would be where I'd be looking. I'd be looking at that next generation.
Well, I've got to mention through the Heroes Ability banner, we've actually gone into schools, actually approached some schools in the local area and said that we teach the special needs units because every school here has a league team, has a cricket team, has a uni team, but why not the special needs units? There's not enough done for these type of people in schools.
Yeah.
So what me and Mark do is actually do the actual 10-week program with the schools, and they can play inter-school carnival against other schools
Yeah.
and represent their colours. So we want the school to support that team. Not because they're disabled, they're representing their colours, their school.
Because they're representing their school, absolutely.
Exactly. Not because, let's feel sorry for the disabled person. No. They should get behind that school team and bag for the school team. They want to win the first championship or the first trophy. And I think the way it's going, I think big. I always think national first, and then go back to the domestic. So I think this will be a national thing in about 5 years' time. But I think it's very important to include, because not only they're playing a sport, but their mental state going into the open world. If you open up and they get more confidence in speaking to people, they'll get a job. I mean, they leave school and then they go into shelters or they go into day programs. But that's not encouraging them to find a job if they can. I mean, find a job.
Do you think, Ben, part of the problem in the UK is that there's no concentration of physical or mental disability within school? Because if you're mainstream school, where your education is the priority, there isn't the same opportunity to perhaps represent your school if you are the sole person in the year that's got cerebral palsy, for example.
Yeah.
There needs to be a way of bringing that together, do you think?
Potentially. I think, we're unfortunately way behind the 8 ball in comparison to Australia anyway, in that at primary and even secondary school level, the amount of teams that are running for mainstream non-disabled people is tiny anyway, and it's been decreasing even since I was at school, which isn't that long ago, before you say anything, Emma. And I think
lying, he's really old.
yeah, I think for me,
I'm old. I'm 40.
I think for me, there's a bit of you've got to find best fit, because I argue that part of the reason I am as I am is because I had that chip on my shoulder and I had to fit within mainstream school, and I played sport within mainstream school. So if you can, I'm still a big believer in there is that path for you. But at the same time, I get exactly what you mean. You can't, in this country, put a disability team together because those people are so rarely actually together. I mean, I know that some schools do still try. So in the last couple of years, I've been lucky enough to go on a couple of sort of schools tend to run days where they'll, like George was saying, run sort of condensed versions of competitions with sort of adapted sports like bocce or indoor curling and things like that. But because of how our schools are set up, it is almost like, right, if you are on the SEN on the disability register, you go on that trip, and that almost isn't best fit, because if you take, for example, a minute, you could have an autistic child who doesn't deal well with, or a child on the autistic spectrum, I should say, who doesn't deal well with loud noises and things like that, and you're asking them to go on a bus with a child who's got ADHD, who's bouncing off the walls. You're not helping anybody there, are you?
So explain to me what's in England. So you've got a normal mainstream school.
Yeah.
What special needs unit? What's it like? Explain to me, because I was a token male in a school when I was growing up in the 70s, and there was a female token of a disability in the same school there. So there's only one female or male. Now in our schools in Australia, there's special needs units. So when they go into year 7 up to year 12, they're all in the same class.
Right.
So I'm presuming there's 4 or 5 teachers that actually teach that class into how they, like I said, in terms of their knowledge of like from 7 to year 12. How does it compare to England? What's it like in England?
So There are some special needs units that run independently. There's not a lot, from my knowledge. Occasionally, you will find a unit attached to a high school to allow integration. So it'll be on site but separate, if that makes sense. But I think over here we are very much of the opinion of attempting almost integration at all costs, which has its benefits. I've been in that situation. I have been that TA who is sat at the kid with the back of the class, at the back of the class.
So one-on-one, one-on-one, yeah, one-on-one.
Yeah, I've been in that situation. Yeah, I've had to do that as a TA. But yeah, like Emma says, it's rare that we get people with disabilities grouped together in a school environment.
Is it a fact? I think that like normal rugby league, they possibly can't play rugby league because it's a rugby board and they wouldn't have had a pass or tackle. Modify the thing. It's simple. You modify. You get them together in a group in a transition, and you see what they can and can't do, and say, well, this doesn't work. Let's scrap this. Let's modify this. That's the main mark I've done with HWA. We've modified every aspect of passing, running. We've like the rugby league part of it. They love obstacle course.
Yeah.
Loved it. Like actually hitting a bag for the first time. Smile on their face and oh wow, how was this? They love that part. So we've made sure every transition finishes with that.
Yeah.
And they know to finish to go home on the bus. They've got routines that's how they do it. And it's simple. Just modify the sport.
Yeah. No, and you know, I couldn't agree with you more. And you know, from a professional point of view, that is what I have been taught and what I always try to do. You know, like you say, when it's hard to explain to someone that's not been in that situation, isn't it, George? But when you see someone get that foothold into something for the first time and really fall in love and enjoy something for the first time, nothing really compares to that. And it's about giving them that opportunity.
We've got a young adult, Brian Daly. He comes 6 hours to play the sport of PDRL Rugby League. He's mentally not there. Like he doesn't understand how the game works. He's happy just to go on the field and just to roam around, and we adapt to him. So we all back off and let him run for 5-10 meters. So we don't go in and charge him, but he just loves being there, and we've accepted that. It's not kill him at all costs. Give you the ball. You have to adapt to each individual. Like players target me because I'm quick and I can sidestep. Well, I'm not a big bloke in terms of my physique, but what I've got in speed, they'll say always target me. So George gets the ball, either do a sidestep or chip and chase on the last, and we'll do whatever.
Yeah.
I changed myself. I was a black shorts player, but I was getting hammered and I couldn't walk some days. Literally couldn't walk. And I have a family, I've got a job, so I had to. And one of my teammates, John Smith, actually broke his ankle in one of the games. And what my greatest fear in that game was, I should have got that ball before him.
Right. Yeah.
And it would be me that broke his ankle. And I said, well, love this sport, but I can't risk my livelihood. So lucky enough, I'm quick enough to become a red shorts.
Gonna say, George, you're lucky because I'm slow and don't weigh anything, and
Well, mate, if you come at me, I'm going to figure. But I mean, I'm fortunate enough. I'm the second leading try scorer of all time for association as we speak. So I'm lucky enough that I could see me scoring tries. Fortunate enough to play, fortunate enough to score points for the association. I think I scored over 300 points, but I mean, but I was lucky enough that I could go in the red shorts. Some players can't.
Yeah.
But I was going with shorts, and I love it. I challenged myself to become a better player as a red shorts player. Like you, Emma. You know,
Yeah, no, there's no tries being scored by me, my love. I stop at halfway and watch other people score. That's what I do.
mean, nah, don't be modest, Emma. I love standing next to you because it means I don't have to defend as much.
It's all good. It's all good.
Yeah, I do. I think that what you're saying is good, and I agree about adaptation to the individual. I think one of the problems we've got in the UK is a lot of the people who are delivering sport within schools are not necessarily sporting people. So a teacher may have to deliver a sports lesson. I don't know, Ben, you'll be able to correct me on this. And they're not necessarily a sports person, so they don't see the sport how we see it.
I'd flip that issue, to be honest with you, Emma. From my experience, the main issue in schools, because I'm a PE specialist, I train in PE. It's what my degree's in. The main issue in primary schools, especially, is that teachers don't have the confidence to deliver. So what schools are doing are farming this work out to coaching companies, trusts, etc. And Craig will hate me for saying this because he's one of the people that offers it. And I actually think his system, they're doing a good job from what I've seen. But my argument with it has always been is, yes, it's sport, but PE has that word education in it. And the people who are delivering things not always have necessarily had the training to know the education part or to understand how to adapt things, given how much we've talked about adapting things. They've not had
outside source coming in. They don't know the kids, do they?
And there is that too. That also does not help at all. And
two of our schools we approached aren't sports savvy.
Yeah,
they haven't got sports in their special needs units because they haven't got the people that can actually do it, can run, and that's where we went to. So we actually go into schools and actually show them how to do it. We get the teachers to give it a hand, and what we're going to do is with like PDRL Rugby League, we're going to get 2 students from Year 11 and 12 to be the AB in that actual team, not to score tries, to score the winning try, but to mentor the special needs kids. We want to adapt to them on the school playground. Oh, look, here's my teammate. How's it going? Come over here. It's the fact that you're interacting with them on a daily basis, and of course being a teammate.
And I think people underestimate sort of the power of that. If I can do it, you can do it. Like when I'm teaching a PE lesson, or when I've adapted anything as a coach, or I would never give anyone something that I wouldn't be willing to have a go at myself, or ask them to do anything that I wouldn't be willing to have a go at myself.
Believe me, George, I've seen him teaching dance.
You have, yeah. That did not go well.
I've got 2 left feet. I've got my legs out on the right leg. I don't want to be rude. I want to put my fan in charge. You're going to say the roof for 5 seconds. Otherwise, I go blank and I can't speak. This is a good conversation. Bear with me 1 second. Put this on here. I look at my toys while I'm doing it. Okay, cool. Let me just turn my thing here. Back in the room I come. Yep. I can't see it. Can you see that?
Yeah, that's fine.
Sure.
Oh yeah. It's not good for the. Maybe put a hat on. There's a lot of glare.
It's 10:30. I won't blind you. It's all good. Any questions so far?
No questions. Although I'm quite surprised that Ben has so far not mentioned the fact that he went to Australia.
Yeah, no, not mentioned that at all. Yeah, not mentioned that at all. Yeah, lovely time. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and like we were talking about earlier, just one of those opportunities that I wouldn't have got were it not for PDRL and not for how much things have developed over the course of your time over there and our short period of time over here, because I couldn't have ever imagined that. And I know the other two lads who were involved never really saw themselves getting to go to Australia to play rugby league. So,
I mean, we're the pioneers, I've been. I mean, we look back at 10 years' time and say, wow, look what we achieved in our lifetime in terms of PDRL League. But 10 years' time, I'm looking forward to seeing what it looks like.
Yeah.
I presume you'll be more professional, not in the terms of getting paid, but more professional in how they train. Hopefully we'll be training as teams, have a team manager, and hopefully what's happened here, when we established it 10 years ago, the association had to look after the teams. But in England, your Super League clubs are running with the teams. So because we started here, we had to take a gamble. South Sydney Rabbitohs are called the Western Sydney Outlaws, and the Roosters are called the Eastern Suburbs Stingrays. So that's something that we manufactured from scratch because we had nothing. Where do we go to? Oh, excuse me, South, we've got this team. Can you help us? They would have not laughed at us, but well, show us what you can do. But it took us about 3 or 4 years to get that, and then they came knocking on the door. And now the teams are aligned with the NRL teams.
Yeah, and I think what's not to be underestimated is how much that means to some of the guys, isn't it? It's a childhood dream for everybody who's involved, I suppose, to pull on the shirt of their team. Not that I've done that actually. I've cheated a little bit, haven't I? But
did you go for? You go for so. Is in England is where you live is where you go for, or that's not the case?
Generally speaking, I grew up in Leeds, so I'm a Rhinos fan and always have been. But it just happened when this was all kicking off over here, and that Leeds had been set up, and I saw an advert for Wakefield, and I remember at the time, the conversation, the thought process for me was, Leeds are set up, they've got enough players for a team. I could go play there, and that'd be great for me personally because they're my team. But if everyone goes there and they end up with no one to play against, what's the point? And I can't, I've got to give big raps to Craig Shepherd here and everyone who's been involved at Wakefield at various different times, because it's probably been in terms of rugby for me probably the best decision I could have made, because I think not only has it meant that I could play, but like you say, it's meant because sort of Emma, sort of me and Alex and Dino, Johnny, Pete and Tabs and people who've had sort of that experience in community rugby league, we've been able to bring that to PDRL, and like you say, mentor some of those guys coming through who are maybe a bit younger, or haven't played at all. I mean, we only have to look at sort of the progress that the likes of Harry, Josh, Ben Reynolds have made in the past 12 months. And I like to think, although I don't say it because it makes you sound big-headed, but you like to think that some of that kind of comes through osmosis, doesn't it? It comes through being around people who have understood the game.
And what are the other opportunities you have, Ben? You now get to commentate on Wakefield Trinity matches.
Yes, I do. Free tickets. That's what it is. Free tickets.
My pet hate here is people that live in New South Wales go for Queensland. They go, what?
Yeah.
Here we are, the last couple of years. It's not the go for them. The fact that, I mean, people from Sydney go for Melbourne. What? You go for Melbourne Storm?
You've got like 6 teams to pick from in Sydney. Yeah.
But it's I mean, here it's, I think, back in when I suppose when my dad was coming and people from Portugal, they like the colours. So Bulldog colours, Greek colours. So if you're Greek, you go to the Bulldogs. So I think they went for the colours more, for the colours more, and not for the actual team. But like I said, my parents are born and bred in Redfern. I'm a rabbit, so I'm a born Manchester supporter. Emma, we've got a question here.
Yep.
So Toddy Dawn, and I'm going to ask everyone. Tonna asks, what is your greatest highlights of PDRL Rugby League? So Ben and Emma, you go first, and then I'll say my last.
Well, it's a difficult one, isn't it? I suppose the one that you'll never forget is you know, the first game we played at Bellevue. That were a real nice opportunity for everyone, and you know, getting together and getting changed in the changing rooms. And for me, that would have been probably 4 years since I got ready to play a game. You know,
I didn't play in that game.
Did you not?
I interviewed people afterwards.
You did. Yeah, first time you interviewed Dino without his head wound. Yeah, I don't think he got a head wound in that one. Yeah,
he avoided that. Yeah, I that was the first time I watched it.
Yeah.
And I think from that was the point for me where Craig Shepherd, again, I'm going to mention that guy. He was the one who conned me into playing.
You are the second registered girl to play PDRL Rugby League. Kayla Cope here in Sydney. She's our first one. She's played like I think 20 odd games. Then I think came Lisa Adams from New Zealand. She's now gone on to represent New Zealand in the Panama Games. I think of the shot putter.
Yeah, I followed that story. Amazing.
She was amazing. She's like down to earth, like she's like one of your best mates. But you're in a group that's very rare breed, mate. And females playing our sport, but we want more than the play. But sorry, Ben, keep going back to your story.
Yeah, no, just that first game, and you know, the first time, you know, being all together, and we were lucky enough to come away with the win in that game, and I think that was the reason that it's probably my best memory is because it's the time I realised that this is something that actually is going to stick. Because prior to playing, there's all that. What's it going to be like? Is it going to feel like, you know, when I used to get to play, and you know what I mean? And then that's the first time it really stuck. I mean, look, I've had great experiences at Old Trafford and in Australia with the Gold Coast, and you know, games at Warrington and all those sorts of things. But I think it's hard to get over that first memory. Yeah. And I scored in that game as well. So.
Thanks. Emma, how are you?
I think probably I having never played rugby.
Half a me, of course, but.
I mean that you know, obviously that was going to be my main highlight. But having never played before, I think for me, in actual fact, it wasn't even a match. It would be for me just the first time that I went to training, and the fact that these guys have played their whole lives and accepted me as part of the team. So it wasn't even a game for me. I mean, I spent most of the first game I played absolutely panicking that I was going to make a mistake, do something wrong, let the rest of the team down. But the fact that I was accepted quite, you know, like it was just a normal thing. And it wasn't normal because I'd never played before. I played netball for county, played netball for England. That was completely different. It's a sport. But I think that was the moment for me where I felt like I was part of something. And then, of course, I came to Australia and met everybody in Australia, which is sort of widened my friendship circle and around that same sport, which, you know, I would never have had a rugby experience ever. I certainly would not have played at Old Trafford had I not been conned into playing by Craig. But also, I think it took an awful lot of encouragement for me to turn up to that first training session, and I think that's the main thing that I would say to people. You know, if once you've done it, once you've made that step, it's easy after that. You know, you'll be surprised how much you can do, and you'll be surprised how much you can achieve. And there's an awful lot of people there to support you and pick you up if it don't quite go right. And I think that's the important message for me, really.
I suppose for me, of course, representing my country, that's foremost. Not the fact that I'm playing for Australia, but the work you do over the year to make that team, and the friendships you forge with your teammates to get there. It's not just you get picked tomorrow because you're a good bloke. You have to prove to not only yourself but to other people that you should be deservingly of representing that team. But I suppose for me, it's playing with and against some amazing people, amazing ambassadors for disabilities and for PD Rugby League. I do that on a 3 weekly basis, and I'm chuffed to go out there and to play with these people I look up to. They're my heroes. It's just amazing what the human spirit can do when it's tested. When you open the door, you ajar the door. For example, little Jack Bryant, he's a dwarf, small stature. I think that's what they call him now. He's only 3 foot, but the heart and soul of that kid is second to none. Amazing what this kid can do. Is the passion that he shows for his teammates and for playing PDRL League. Just it's second to none. I just can't believe it. I look up to him. I mean, I always like to be eye to eye to him. I don't want to like belittle him. So every time I shake his hand, I always kneel and say, "G'day." I'll make sure he's eye contact. Because that's the way it should be. You should look at your mate in the eye and not below him. And that's what I do it for. Because I look up to this kid. Amazing. We've got some kids coming through. Little Noah Pittis. He's just amazing. He's, I think, 13. But gee, he's going to be a gun of a play in 10 years' time. Absolutely gun. He's quick now. He actually beats able-bodied players and the quick players now. The way he sidesteps. So I look forward to their growing, their learning curve in the PDRL League. I look forward to that. That's the most enjoyable thing that I look forward to. Yeah, we just answered that, Timmy. But yeah, like playing against Timmy, like I said before, Timmy was playing originally for New Zealand Jets. Unfortunately, he copped an injury and he broke his rib cage, I think. So he left the sport for about 2 or 3 times. He left the sport for 2 or 3 years. And I was always on his back. Timmy, come back, brother. The boys need you. Come on, come back. Because I knew he loved sport. He loved the West Tigers. And when I got New Zealand going with Sandra Hickey, I always knew that that was Timmy Rags calling to play for his country. So instead of 1 call a day, I was calling him 3 times a day. Come get your act together. I want to see you in the black and white colours of your heritage, your country. And I want to see you do the hard in front of me. And I love speaking to Timmy. I love mentoring him. I love to make sure he's on his game. And just what he's achieved is nothing short of amazing. And that's what I'm most proud about, seeing other people achieve. Not me achieving, but other people achieve.
So we haven't got any more questions, I don't think. And
you must be bored.
Well, there's quite a possibility they've all gone to bed, I think, where you are. I mean, what time is it now?
If people are watching in England, it's almost 11 o'clock.
So, I mean, I would just like to sort of end on the fact that there was the potential before the pandemic that next year there was going to be some sort of tournament that played around the World Cup. Are you still hoping that's going to go ahead, George? And do you think that you'll still be intact and able to play when that happens?
I've been speaking to Neil Winnison, the current chairman, and Josh Maxwell. They're confident they are going to, I've heard, pick a preliminary squad that will start training at the end of the year. Whatever that year looks like, who knows? It could be no more games. It could be a tournament that will deem the winner We're having it's our 10-year anniversary, so August, I think 22nd. This year was the first time I met at Redfern Oval, which is the home of Sassy Rabbits, where I wanted to form some sort of league for people with disabilities, and so we're having a 10-year anniversary, and I'm doing some stuff with Michael White, who's one of our ABs, to make sure that the players are acknowledged, and the fact that it's our sport, and we should always be part of it, no matter what. There has been talk about playing with a squad that will train, and then we start our 10th season next year, and then hopefully the squad will be picked. I presume we'll play trial games or something or whatever, and then the team will get selected. What's news from your end in terms of? I mean, I know that Hugh's dealing with the main issues there at the moment, and I understand there's the issues with particular players of the physical nature playing our game. I know with Wellington came over last year. There was, I suppose, guys who are disabled but are less disabled than guys who have cerebral palsy or ABIs. So to me, they were normal limbs but maybe missing a finger. I'm not saying they can't play. Get me right there. They got a role in our game, but maybe as an AB. In their own right, they've lost fingers or whatever, and that's understandable. But you can't compare a guy who's got cerebral palsy, who's got muscle spasms, their limb is weak, compared to a guy who's got 4 limbs and missing maybe a couple of fingers. Mm-hmm. The game was built for guys who are quad CPs or have cerebral palsy, or guys who can't play in mainstream rugby league. What I saw last year is these guys could play in the conference leagues. Not saying they can't play, but I think the game of PD has to be fair income and has to go in the right direction to give everyone a go in playing a great sport.
I don't know that we've got any updates. I think myself and Ben are of the same opinion, and I'm sure that something will evolve and there'll be things put in place. Definitely that will have to happen before there's any kind of international tournament, because we need to make sure there's a level playing
field. Yeah.
So we don't have updates. I mean, to be fair, our season hasn't started. We don't know when it might start now.
It's normally roughly this time of year, isn't it? Which doesn't really help.
You guys will be behind the 8 ball because you're behind us probably by a month. We probably really go out of lockdown. If people behave themselves on the beach, probably about another month. But they're still saying that people can't gather until maybe October. So I'm not sure what that means for us. I don't know, but I mean it's certainly interesting to see how they pick the national squad on how do they deem it? How do they do it?
Well, you can't if you're not playing games, really. Not in any sort of fair and transparent way. And I think the problem that we're all going to face, even if we sorted all of the eligibility issues out, the problem we're going to face at the minute is that I think sport's going to be the last thing to go back to normal, unfortunately, at all levels. And we're probably going to be a little bit of a victim of that. But, all we can do is cross our fingers and toes in it and hope.
It might be a case of we playing New Zealand at the Trans-Tasman Cup, and you guys might play Ireland or Scotland or maybe even France. Tasman TV, who I know personally well, used to coach in France. His son plays in the Catalan Dragons, or I think he did play. He's been a supporter of PDRL League, so maybe he can get word that England, Scotland, Wales, they have a team, and maybe you can have like a tournament in your neck of the woods. I think it's going to be hard. Just the travelling fact that...
That's it, There's an argument that regular internationals... Well, regular internationals are pretty much impossible for the proper governing bodies of the fully,
Yeah, of course.
of the professional sport to manage to organise on a regular basis, let alone us guys who are just doing the best that we can.
Let's talk take base to Hawaii, and let's have a tournament in Hawaii, and let's go for gold. That'd be great. That would be great. But yeah, I mean, you guys will have a great team. There's the number of participants playing PDRL League. We've probably got about not disabled players, probably like 40, 50.
Mm.
You guys will probably have about 80, 100. Is that correct?
I think Warrington have got 40.
Yeah, they have pretty much. Yeah, we're up around 20. Leeds are 20 or 30. Yeah, so yeah, you're probably not far wrong.
What have I created? But yeah, I mean, I always knew once you go into England, it would just skyrocket because I understand and I've seen it for myself. The league is amazing in the north of England, absolutely amazing. And I was pretty confident of once I got hold of somebody, and that guy being John Welch, that other teams will come on board. And I think guys from England are doing the hard yards to play the sport I invented.
Yeah.
It's words can't describe the way I feel. The fact that I've given life to people in England and New Zealand and whoever the case may be. But we're all in the same boat. We're all disabled, and we all have a story to tell.
Yep. And hopefully, when this is all sorted out, that the next chapter will be, like we've said, some form of international competition, because
play hard and have a beer at the pub.
Yeah, it's a chance to celebrate, isn't it? It's a chance to celebrate all this good work.
It's to me the celebration of the human spirit. You play for your country, you play for your club, your colours, you play for your country, but it's a celebration of the human spirit of what everyone has overcome in this league. And let me say, the ABs playing in the leagues all over the world, my hand off to them. For them to come back and we disable them into playing our league, and they accepting it, and then like I don't look at them as able-bodied. They're my teammates.
Yeah.
I don't see them differently. They're my mate. He's passing me the ball for me to score. Great, he's my teammate. He's not a guy that can or can't do it. So the fact that he's my teammate, so I take my hat off to the ABs. We've had a guy there since day one. He's played pretty much every game, 2 games or 3 games every round. So these guys, I mean, amazing how they just fit in with us. But yes, my hat off to all ABs. We had a guy from England, Andy Mycock. He actually came to Australia and he performed a tour of duty for us. He went to New Zealand for our 9th tournament in Auckland, where the Warriors beat West Tigers 4-2 in the final. I was fortunate enough to play with him in the Warriors, same with Tony Dawood. But just the fact that he came with his way to play our sport is just amazing. So my hat to the ABs, they need to have a mention too. And the volunteers, the people on the board who do a voluntary, the guys and the girls in the canteen, selling raffle tickets, raising money for the association so we can get some gear. Oh, hats off to them. It's a big it's a co-op of people working together.
Yeah.
Football is part of it.
Do you have anything else to say, Ben?
No, I think I'd just like to say, thank you to George, because it's the first time I've had an opportunity to speak to him face to face, as such, as weird as this is face to face. And I can't thank him enough for what he's put in place, not just for me, but for sort of everyone who's involved. Because we've achieved something great, I think.
I thank you, Ben and Emma, and everyone that's played PDRL League for seeing the dream I created 10 years ago, and actually the opportunity that now are given to people is just amazing. And I take my hat off to you guys for taking the gamble, the step. And you said yourself, a couple of players where they would never have played any sport, to play sport, a contact sport, just to be part of something, be part of a team that every week you're playing for your colours, you're playing for your teammate. And as you said, Emma, you were scared that you were going to drop the ball or make a mistake. It's not that. I always say to the players, it's a team mistake. You don't blame no one. If you make a mistake, you get up and you go again. You do the 1% to get that try. So it's a team collective. There's no I in team. And when you achieve a grand final when you achieve to be in a grand final over the year, that's an achievement in itself. So you play together, you won and lost, had good and bad times, but in the end, it's about taking part in something good, in something that's very very humbling to be part of.
Absolutely, yeah. Couldn't agree more. I think that's a lovely note to finish on as well. I know there's Todd wants to know what your favourite food is, George, but
So quickly, your bang of the mash probably. Love my lasagna, love my Italian food, toddy, meat pie occasionally, and a beer if you're at the pub, mate. What's yours, Ben?
Curry.
What?
Curry.
Yeah. Okay.
Gotta go with curry.
Listen, keep up the good work. Thanks, Emma and Ben, for having me. Good to have a chat.
We should have another one later on when everything's back up and running. We should do another catch up.
Yeah, and so you guys are registered for the new Facebook to pass them to players.
Just need to accept it. Yeah, I've got it.
Please come on live, have a chat, talk about your cat or your dog or whatever. You know what you're up to. But like I said, keep up the good work in England. Take my hand off to you, and we will see each other again.
Yeah, good chatting, babe. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. God bless.
Take care, darling. Bye.
All right. Keep safe.